G'day. Spa capture rate may just be the most dangerous spa metric there is. Let me explain. I've written and spoken quite a bit in the past about spa metrics and KPIs. And in fact, I'll put a link to a fairly lengthy article I wrote on the topic some time ago. But a recent conversation with a spa manager kind of reminded me of that old adage that you manage what you measure. Because we were talking about the capture rate and they were proudly telling me how great their capture rate was, and it was. But of course, when I looked in more detail at their numbers, I realized that their actual revenues were down. Because of course, the capture rate is really just a measure of relevance. It doesn't necessarily translate into revenues. And so I thought it was a timely reminder that sometimes we fall into a few traps when it comes to metrics. Number one, we look at tracking too many different metrics. And the more that you track, the more you give your managers an opportunity to be able to say, well, we're down on those two metrics, but by these two metrics, we're actually doing really well. And then sometimes that can lead to a bit of a false sense of security. And the other thing that I think it's important is that you need to decide on those one or two metrics in your business that you want to live and die by. And for many businesses, that has to be the revenue. It has to be the profit line or the revenue line, one or the other. Because simple things like capture rates and average checks and retail percentages, they're great for sort of measuring your business as you go. But if you want to be a standalone business unit, then you're going to live and die by what you put in the bank, essentially. So, I think the reminder is that metrics can be deceiving, KPIs can be deceiving. Make sure you know which metrics you want to track. Make sure that you drive those messages home. Make sure that you don't send confusing messages to your team about what metrics really matter. Because ultimately, in this particular case, the spa capture rate was fantastic. The overall revenue was down. I wasn't a happy camper, but that's my fault because I wasn't really communicating the fact that spa capture rate isn't as important to me as that overall revenue number. Because they clearly didn't get the message, or at least they didn't want to hear the message. Anyway, that's a little message on capture rates, KPIs, and metrics. I do thank you for your time, and I will be back again tomorrow. See ya.